artist that's ever graced comics in terms of ability. Kirby's stuff just hit me between the eyes, much more than John's stuff.
I can't imagine what you mean.
Speaking of hitting you between the eyes, so the finding that sort of oddball stray Kirby issue right at the end of the 60s Surfer run was a revelation to me, because I didn't know. I was a kid. I was looking through back issues and finding stuff, and I was like, because I liked the John stuff, but those seemed much more like Stan stories to me.
Because they were.
And man, as soon as Jack shows up, like, shit's happening. People are screaming, people, so it was just a different.
It's odd that you didn't do the cover.
Yeah. Right. Herb was probably hanging around the office.
No doubt.
Hey, kid.
There are various reasons, yeah, right. But, yeah, I mean, look at those two splashes, oh my God.
Yeah, incredible.
I mean,
I wish we knew where it was going to go next, because,
Yeah, and obviously this is the last issue of that 60 Surfer run. It was the tail end before cancellation. Or
yeah.
I would assume they knew that it was canceled when this issue.
probably by this issue they probably knew it. And maybe that's why Buscema left it, because he was already
Go do
for
something
his
else,
next
right?
12 jobs, yeah. And I believe the story I heard was that initially Jack was very hurt when they gave the Surfer his own book, and they didn't say, hey, you created this character, why don't you draw it, Jack? And Stan had changed the concept radically anyway, and I guess I might know why. I mean, even Stan, I heard him tell stories of, like, he and Jack had plotted this arc with the Galactus, and Jack came into the office with the first issue, and he says, who's this guy on the surfboard, Jack? And he goes, well, a guy as big as Galactus, big meaning all-powerful, he would have a herald.
God doesn't talk to you. He's got to do this.
Yeah, he sends a burning bush or an angel or something. So, so Jack made him up out of whole cloth, as Jack was often wont to do. And then, and I love the character, and I love the concept. These earthly beings, I can't bear to see their planet, eaten by my master, because they have an element of nobility, and they don't deserve it. So, and then Stan writes the book, and all of a sudden, I used to be immortal just like everybody else, amortal, not immortal, amortal, and I had a girlfriend, and I sacrificed myself so that they'd spare my planet, and even Buscema used to write notes on the border like, and then the wimp, complains about, how his life is. and he'd have him like in a tree in a jungle, and there's lions, and the server's going there like this, like, oh, woe is me. And Buscema John was a big, burly guy, lifted weights, strong, and just one of the all-time great comic book artists. And I think he really enjoyed doing Conan, because he was a rough and tumble macho guy. And then he gets this slender, silvery guy who's just like, woe is me, moaning and groaning, and he just, I love that he referred to him as the wimp. So, and so Kirby's whole concept of a divine being working for an even bigger divine being just went right out the window. Oh yeah, he was a human, like, just like us in the old days. And I thought, that's a terrible idea, look, I was reading all the Marvels at the time, and I liked that book, even despite the Stan's foibles on it. But it was not as good as what I thought Kirby came up with. But I think Stan also felt like the only way to make him, the Surfer, relatable to us mere mortals was to make him a former mere mortal.
Make him a wimp.
Make him a wimp. Sure, he knew me. So, and then I thought, but I came up with a fix. I don't know if they ever, but I thought that, and then Galactus exiled the Surfer for not doing his job. So now, you like him so much, okay, you're stuck on their planet. You can't go into the spaceways and ride around on your board anymore. And they have episodes where the Surfer's just throwing himself at this Galactus-imposed barrier around the planet. just getting, you know, banging his head against the wall and getting knocked off his board and all this. And I thought, you know what? If they want to go back to Jack's original concept, just make it so that Galactus, you know, trapped him on the planet, but he also implanted the idea that he had been immortal, you know, previously. And that was the punishment, that now he, you know, he had this image of himself as a lesser being with, you know, his long lost love, Shalabal, and so on. But I, you know, nobody ever took me up on it. I would have been, I think, I would have been interested to see what Jack would have done with the character if he'd had his druthers.
Well, before we run out of time, because we do just have a few minutes left, Ron, you wanted to talk about this particular moment, the issues you wrote.
This was the Surfer Rebirth series that Ron Lim and I came back together and did a few years ago. And one of my ideas, because you know I hate artists and want to make them draw really hard things. So I said to Ron, so like, I got a story that maybe a bunch of surfers show up, but you know, so it's your surfer and a Kirby surfer and a Mobius-looking surfer and a Mike Allred looking surfer. And I said, does that sound like something you can and want to do? And stupidly, he said yes. So part of this issue is a concoction of realities, and we're pulling surfers from different realities. So they all look different, but it was Ron's problem to make them all look different. So that's where this came from. And I thought Ron did a hell of a job, actually, sort of delineating what makes each artist's vision of the surfer a little different. And then the colorist actually did some delineation too to make sure that we knew which one was which. And obviously they all go, you know, get banished back to the realities. But man, this was fun, and this was, for me at least, a way to kind of tip the cap to all the people that have left their mark on the character.
Yeah. Neat. And speaking of different visions of Silver Surfer, I have to throw this in the show. Man, this was out of left field.
I didn't know this existed. I was writing Surfer, and I didn't know this existed. Because it was at print.
Yeah,
Couldn't
it's
find
hard
it.
to find.
And I was actually doing a local comic show in my hometown of Kingston, New York. And just sort of, you know, you take a break from the table and go look at bins and stuff like that. And I stumbled across this, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, that would be a good reaction.
So I, you know, immediately bought it for the princely sum of $30 or whatever.
Sure.
And discovered this entirely unknown to me surfer story that is much more, you know, much more Jack. It's except for the cover, which they would apparently let Jack do.
Yeah, it's floating around.
Is it,
The
you know,
original version.
Yosemite didn't paint that cover, did he?
No, it was Earl Norm.
Yeah.
Oh, Norm, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, he was great.
It's nice. You know, it's based on Jack's drawing. It's very close to it.
Of course.
But
Yeah, you can see
it's a little
like
sad
this
that they
layout.
didn't put his name, Jack Kirby's name on here.
But this has not been reprinted.
Yeah.
I guess for legal reasons, because I actually wanted to use that character, not the silver guy, the golden chick, in a story, and they said, hey, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I said, why? And they said, you don't want to know. So,
I kind of assumed it's
Disney has lawyers, you don't want to know.
I kind of assumed it has to do with the fact that it was published by Simon & Schuster, and they have some rights in it or something.
Yeah, so it's
Just because they published it,
it's a great
I don't know,
lost, it's
because
a great
people
lost
comment,
story.
It's very weird.
yeah.
How many pages?
Oh, it's like 96 pages.
Yeah, it's a big fat book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
That
book.
must have taken Jack all week.
Here's his graphic novel girlfriend, who was never seen before or since.
It's not that graphic.
They
Kids
did
could
reprint
read
it
that.
once in the 90s.
Oh, you know, I think you're right.
Yeah, I did have that.
Appreciate it.
But not as a standalone, right? It's like part of something else.
I think it was a standalone.
Oh, really?
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong.
Man, I could have saved myself $30.
But I don't know if it ever wound up in like an epic or something like that.
been a lot of sort of stray surfer stuff like that,
Yeah.
but like alongside my stuff.
But yeah, but there was an edition in the 90s that had a different cover or something.
And this is a page I just love out of it, where the surfers is falling over the city.
Great page.
Spectacular. And what I was looking at really closely, it's like none of these little cityscapes match, but you really get the point. He just drew something different each panel.
Yeah.
Like now you would say, you know, stack that background and just lay it in again and have a figure over it. Or Photoshop, obviously. Well,
Jack could probably do it faster than you could get it statted anyway.
that is true.
Yeah.
Well, we are running out of time. Is there anything else you want to say before we call it a day?
I hated Jack Kirby.
Oh.
Like my first experience with Jack, before I knew who Jack was I'm like a 5-year-old in my parents' basement, and my brother, who was 12 years older than me, had left behind a box of old comics. I mean, he still lived in the house, but these were his old comics, and he was a mature teenager of 17 years or whatever. And so, 17-year-olds.
Looking for women.
So I would file through these comics, and it was all sort of classic Silver Age stuff, mostly Marvel. And I would, so there would be a stack, there was a stack of FF comics in there. And that shit scared me like nobody's business, because it was all weird looking, and everybody had square fingers, and I'm like, I don't like that stuff. But I kept coming back to it. Like there were Don Heck Avengers issues and all that, those were fine. But man, I like the forbidden fruit of Kirby's early FF stuff, just like changed me in a fundamental way.
That is amazing. Sir, do you have a question?
I was just wondering, was the gold woman, was she the precursor to Nova? Was she a Herald as well?
I think she was pretty much just, conceived and created for this book and didn't really have any relations.
I mean, maybe John Byrne ripped her off from this. And
Yeah, that's very possible. Anyway, I just pulled up this cover since we were talking about Fantastic Four, but man, nobody ever talks about it. People talk about this cover and the fact that it's in the middle of this run of incredible creativity, but nobody ever talks about how Triton has one eye and like a webbed hand. It looks completely different from what he ended up looking like in the comic,
Oh, yeah?
which I always thought was
I
fun.
can't see it.
No, you can't really see it because it's small. Anyway,
He's got one eye?
he's got one big eye,
Oh,
but only on the cover.
that's
Take a look sometime.
Yeah.
All right, well, look, we should wrap it up and clear the decks for the next people coming in. Thank you so much for being here.
So we're not gonna talk about Kirby Krackle at all?
That was the concept.
I get it.